meet at a party. You're both young, probably late teens. You've both screwed other people, but it was all sort of clumsy. You find excuses to hang out and pretend to be friends. She has a tiny birthmark on her neck that you notice but don't mention. You catch yourself thinking about her a little, then a lot, then all the time. You stop sleeping and eating, and whatever music you're listening to at the time will be so tied to her that in 20 years someone will play that song again, and just for a second you'll remember exactly how you feel now. And at some point, probably involving alcohol, you're going to take your clothes off together, and now you're really fucked because she's under your skin. You had no idea you could care about another human this much, and nothing can ever ruin this. And anyone who tells you otherwise is an idiot. You're not even 20 yet, but you just met the love of your life. How lucky is that? You're probably neglecting to hand in your term papers and not getting much sleep, but it doesn't matter. You get to know her parents well, and she knows yours too, and you've tried every sexual position under the sun, and sex is kind of comforting now, rather than something you think about doing all the time. You've got big plans, and nothing can ever ruin this. She shows you new music you probably wouldn't have even given a shit about before, but somehow you quite like it now. You tell her about your shit, and she pretends to care very convincingly. You move in together because why not? You stay up late, you drink, you screw, you watch her sleeping in the morning sometimes, and suddenly all that bullshit love poetry they forced on you in school begins to make sense. You don't believe in fate or crap like that, but you begin to understand why some people do. And one day she looks at someone else and smiles or laughs, and you feel this sort of weird sting in your brain. Welcome to jealousy. It's quite natural. You don't mention it because you're not completely insane. She probably feels the same way about you, and that's nice. You both get jobs, you get stressed, you get tired, you watch a lot of TV together. You don't screw so often now, but what did you expect? You talk about getting a dog. She mentions some guy at work who's been sending her funny emails, and you decide to murder him, but quickly remember that's illegal. You start going running in the afternoons and notice this girl who's usually out around the same time. She's kind of pretty, but whatever. You spend less time together in the evening. You've forgotten what butterflies feel like. You mention this to a guy you know who's been married for years, and he tells you that's what happens. You can't be loved up forever. This scares you a little, but it's alright because everything will be fine and nothing can ruin this. You're in your 20s now, and some of your school friends are becoming architects or doctors, and you're not. You wanted to be a whatever, but you haven't practiced it in years. You start practicing again, or planning to build a business or get a master's. She seems thoroughly unimpressed by the idea. She starts making baby jokes or talking about buying a house. You don't really want a house or a baby yet because you're not that thing you wanted to be, and you're already 25, and 30 seems like a very big number that's getting scarily close. The sex is kind of routine now, and you wonder if it's just a chore for her. You still hang out, and it's nice, but you begin to worry that something's missing. The two of you experiment with lingerie and going for elaborate adventures, and that's fun for a while. You go running some more, and you see that girl again in the woods. There's something sort of otherworldly about her. She stops for breath, so you do too. You say hello. She's smart, kind of calls you on your bullshit, and you like that. Then you carry on running and push her out of your mind, but now you remember what butterflies feel like. You come home, you cook the same dish you had the night before, and the night before that, you talk about nothing much. She mentions that guy from work wants to meet you, and you reply that that guy from work can suck 1,000 dicks in hell. You sit in awkward silence for a while, and then you watch some more TV. And some more TV. And you live like this for another year, and that's fine, and nothing can ever ruin this. Ever. One of you screws someone else, or snaps for no reason, or mentions that you should take a break, or starts getting distant, or stops talking about the future, or whatever it is. Whether you were the one who broke it off or not, you're never going to wake up with her again, or take her clothes off, or have another screaming drunken argument about the European Union, or if dogs can look up or not. You go to bed, and suddenly the place smells of her in a way you've never noticed before. Music is shit, and food is shit, and everyone is shit, however nice they are to you, and you know you've made a terrible mistake. Nothing could ruin this, and now everything is fucking ruined. You drink a lot of whiskey. You can't seem to sleep for more than a few hours. Someone mentions she's been hanging out a lot with whatever his name is. You imagine them screwing briefly, then go and do something else. You play a lot of video games and discover that yes, you do actually still have friends, and they've been patiently waiting for you for fucking years now. They listen to your bullshit politely because they've been through breakups too. They offer some nice little platitudes, plenty more fish in the sea, etc. But you don't really believe them because they weren't in love like you're in love. No one has been in love like you're in love. You and her send each other passive-aggressive texts about getting your guitar back or whatever, and you meet up to swap your stuff over. It feels good to see her because you're over it now, and she has no power over you whatsoever, and you'll be moving on soon enough. You screw, and literally a minute later realise what a dumb mistake that was. You carry on screwing for a while. You begin to think about getting it back together. She makes a few bullshit digs at you, or you make some at her, and suddenly you stop thinking about getting it back together. You argue. You say horrible shit, the kind of stuff you never imagined you'd say to your worst enemies. You play some more video games, you drink some more whiskey, you listen to some more Elliott Smith. Things are going well with a girl you met on the train, but you can't stomach the thought of sleeping with someone else. You briefly get into healthy eating and Alan Watts and the benefits of keeping porn to a maximum of 17 one-hour sessions a day. You keep practicing at that thing you love. You get pretty good at that thing you love. You remember what being human actually feels like. Someone tells you about a sudden death in their family, and you realise you have absolutely nothing to feel sad about. Not really. Over time, people volunteer their own breakup stories, and some are far, far worse than yours. And again, you realise you have absolutely nothing to feel sad about. Not really. And subtly, so subtly you don't even notice, you become yourself again. And one day, out of nowhere, that girl you met running invites you out, and you notice this little birthmark on her shoulder, but you don't mention it, and you stop sleeping and eating, and whatever music you're listening to at the moment will be so tied to her that in 20 years someone will play that song again, and just for a second you'll remember exactly how you feel now. Music starts to sound good again. Food starts to taste good again. God, what was all that about before? Why were you being such a pussy? Before long, the two of you are hanging out every other day, and you can't remember the last time you felt so alive. Is this what you were meant to be doing all along? Or maybe you're just repeating the same dumb pattern again, but God, it feels incredible. Maybe the whole thing is just some stupid gamble, but you don't care. You didn't care last time. Because right now, you're sure of it. More sure than anything ever, and anyone who tells you otherwise is an idiot. That nothing can ever ruin this. And 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 nothing can ever...
This is the 5th Duke of Portland, and he was a bit of a whack job. In the 1800s he lived here in Welbeck Abbey. He was so introverted he had his meals delivered to his room by a miniature train. Employing 15,000 workers, the Duke constructed under the house a 250-foot long library, 15 miles of tunnelling, and the largest ballroom in England capable of accommodating 2,000 guests. A touch ironic considering the man would hide behind an umbrella if anyone approached him. Probably put water on his cereal as well. My birth country has a long-standing habit of excusing borderline insanity as some kind of charming eccentricity, but it isn't just my country. History is full of wonderful and great oddballs, many of whom we have forgotten. And none of them are you, because you will never do anything remarkable with your life. Sorry about that. 1805, and the poet Lord Byron, or just Byron then, has enrolled in Trinity College, Cambridge. He finds out dogs are banned. Alright, Byron says, what about bears though? Trinity College, Cambridge says, Byron gets a bear and it stays in his lodgings and he takes it for walks on a chain, much like a dog. So that happened. Several years later, John Mitten was on an alleged ration of 8 bottles of port a day. One day, he invites a number of his well-meaning neighbours over to his house. John Mitten then bursts into the drawing room riding a bear. The animal was not a sporting fellow as it turned out, as it bit Mitten, then went on to attack a servant. Ursus, more like Arsus. Anyway, that's just rich people though, isn't it? Anyone could go bonkers if they have lots of cash. Well, how about rags to riches stories? None of them being you, because you will never do anything remarkable with your life. Early 1800s, and Qing Shi, apologies for pronunciation, is a Chinese prostitute. Somehow, she meets swashbuckling, motherfuckling pirate Zheng Yi, and they decide to get married. They grow Zheng Yi's pirate fleet from 200 to 1,800 ships, or about 70,000 men and women. When Zheng Yi died in 1807, his widow took over the fleet, and Qing Shi became empress of one of the largest navies in the world, and a pirate navy at that. Now, admittedly, one answer you may not expect to the question, what do pirates need more of, is accountants, but they did. Qing Shi introduced taxes and laws to her pirate utopia. Loot had to be registered before it was distributed among the fleet, and if you disobeyed Qing Shi, you were free to hang up your pirate hat and go your separate way, just as long as you left your fucking head behind. She wandered about from Canton to Macau, beating the shit out of the Chinese, British, Portuguese, Yar, etc., until finally the government offered her and her pirates amnesty, which is a bit like if you stole everyone's kettles and they responded by inviting you over for a cup of tea. Her power was slipping away anyway, so eventually she accepted, the fleet disbanded, quite a few of her pirates got cushy jobs, and Qing Shi took a piratical sabbatical, kept her fortune, and was given a noble title, effectively becoming a member of the aristocracy, set up a gambling house, and lived a relatively nice life. What is the moral of the story here? Be clever, be a pirate, kill people, chill. Pretty badass. Anyway, then again, there are plenty of great humans who weren't necessarily unusual or eccentric, they were just doing the right thing, or trying to, again, unlike you. In 1983, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov is monitoring the Soviet nuclear early warning system and notices that 5 nuclear missiles are apparently inbound from the US. Petrov has a choice. He either picks up the phone and reports this to his superiors and initiates probably a Russian response, meaning nuclear war and potentially millions of casualties, or he doesn't. He has a bit of a think. 5 missiles does seem a bit unlikely considering the US at the time has thousands to play with. As you may have guessed from the fact that we are still here, Petrov did not report the strike and decided the warning was a glitch, which indeed it was, thanks to sunlight reflecting off of the clouds. So, bolshoi spasiba for that. Or this is Ignaz Semmelweis, who was to medicine what the chief iceberg inspector must have been to the RMS Titanic. Semmelweis was a doctor in the 1800s, and he noticed that, now, I hope you're sitting down for this, washing your hands before delivering a baby actually stops women dying, particularly from what was then called childbed fever. Humans wouldn't discover germ theory for a while yet, but it didn't matter. Semmelweis knew that something changed when doctors kept their hands clean. So he informed the medical community of this and won loads of awards and died happy and respected, and oh wait no, humans are shit and the opposite happened. Semmelweis was ridiculed mercilessly by the medical community, despite having proof of his hygiene theory, eventually had a breakdown and died 14 days after being committed to a mental institution, probably after being beaten up by the guards. Stellar. A century later, and this is Sergei Korolev. In 1933, he designed the first liquid fuel rocket to take off in the USSR. He was rewarded for his efforts with imprisonment and a stay in the Gulag. By some miracle, he was released and went on to mastermind the first satellites in space, the first dog, and, of course, the flight of Yuri Gagarin, who, on the 12th of April 1961, became the first of the Homo sapiens to leave the Earth, orbiting our planet for 108 minutes in Vostok 1. Sergei Korolev would die 5 years later, probably thanks to injuries sustained in the Gulag. The Soviet space program was extremely secretive, and he was largely unknown in his lifetime. As history marches on, one day our period will blur into the countless others, behind and ahead. We are not special, but some events will stand out. This will stand out. It was the first time we ever touched the heavens, and it was in large part brought to us by a man grossly mistreated in his lifetime and largely still untalked of today, outside of science and engineering circles. There is currently a portrait of him in the service module of the International Space Station above us right now. And if, by some miracle, our species emerges from its current adolescence, there is every chance Sergei Korolev's portrait will one day accompany astronauts to corners of the heavens Korolev couldn't have imagined, even in his wildest dreams. So, in light of all this, what makes a great person of history? Well, let's start with 2 born to ideal parents' eggs. Yes, lovely. 2 cups of in the right place at the right time sugar. Excellent. 3 cups of natural talent flour. And finally, 2.5 teaspoons of greatness. Now, where is the greatness? No. Oh, that's right. We don't have any in at the moment because it doesn't fucking exist. For the longest time, I believed that there were 2 types of people. The knowers, who knew what they were doing with their lives, and then the feckless plebs like me, who were just wandering idiots going from plan to misguided plan. 30 is now spitting distance away from me, and you know, the most traumatic part of exiting one's 20s isn't the sudden random failure of body parts, nor the blissful crushing hug of student debt, or even losing the ability to party past 6 in the morning and not die. It is the realization that this model is bollocks, because these people do not exist. Now, clearly expertise exists. Don't trust a barista to fly your plane, nor a pilot to make your double frothy laxative anxiety juice, but when it comes to wisdom, or working out how to be happy, or big boy and big girl meaning of life stuff, no one has a damn clue what they're doing. Not your heroes, not the smartest among us. When it comes to matters of the soul, it is open season. And this is a wonderful thing, because it means that as far as art or innovation goes, the world is anarchy. And while you may have convinced yourself that there's no point trying to do anything anything groundbreaking or novel because someone will do it better. Whoever the greats are that you respect, obviously they had the same doubts and they pushed through it. They were intensely interested in or devoted to something, while simultaneously feeling lost all the time. A long period of confusion isn't a side effect of trying to do something radically interesting, it's the price of admission. We forget that Van Gogh was 27 before he even bothered trying to paint properly. That Darwin told us, "I was considered by all my masters and my father a very ordinary boy, rather below the common standard of intellect." That Emily Dickinson was barely even recognised during her lifetime. That it wasn't until 100 years after Melville's death that anyone really gave a damn about Moby Dick. They were beset on all sides by mean critics or the worst critic of all, themselves. Cthulhu's dick. I have heard of art classes where the teacher begins the first semester by assuring the students they'll never break through and it's pointless to try. Rejection letters writers received instructing them to put down their pens and never bother at it again. Vacuous, jaded bollocks that convinces young artists to give up. But may I humbly recommend that if one is informed you will never do anything remarkable with your life, perhaps the most appropriate response isn't, "Yeah, you're probably right," but rather, "Fuck off, and who the fuck are you anyway?" The shit they will tell you. You've had all your good ideas, it's all been done before, you're too old, too young, too dumb, there's nothing new under the sun. Let's say your lifespan is 80 years, or about 29,200 days. If you're 18, you're about 6,500 days through. 28, about 10,000 days through. 38, about 14,000 days through. Regardless of whether one believes in an afterlife or not, these days are not coming back, and there is not enough time to listen to cynics. By the power of Grayskull, look at where we are, historically, technologically, galactically, the whole game. This isn't normal, is it? Act without expectation. Make cool stuff just because. Give cats fishies always. Oh, for fuck. Have you been editing the script again? Today, this week, this month, year, decade, and century, it will occasionally be referenced in history, and that will be that. If one is cautious about pursuing an unusual path, it may help to remember that the cynics will be forgotten just as readily as your failures will be too. There has never been a better time to do a thing, and just by virtue of how weird existing is in the first place, there are a trillion interesting things still undone, unmade, and unsaid. Those areas have not been drilled, Eli. It is a wilderness out there for everyone. It always was. The greats didn't know they were greats, they were just mortal humans who refused to bow to cynicism. And were we to draw some collective lesson from their lives, it might sound something like, if the fuckers give you lined paper, write the other way. In your projects, in your silly pursuits, in your unlikely follies, and your expeditions into the abyss to recover those strange mental metals you will fashion into something no one has ever made before. I wish you the very, very best of luck. Now sod off and be remarkable, please.